No, you good. Steven. Oh, never mind. I see. Never mind.
Hey, Jake, we're here. He's like, oh, it's too bad. It's like, come over
Say hi real quick.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much. I didn't bring that. I think
Sorry, there's nothing else. You have an extra one?
I don't have an album. What are you trying to do? Yeah, no, I only have one.
Welcome to the panel. We're going to be joined here in a moment. Greg Capullo just finishing up a signing, so he'll be running through that doors. And you see a good-looking bald dude dash up onto the security. He's with us. So thanks everybody coming here. We're going to break the panel up into sort of two parts. First part, we're going to talk about what you see up on the screen. Jim has to go, Greg has to go, he's got another commitment, and then we're gonna get into all things Spawn and talk about the movie and some of the news that just came out. Let me just start, I mean, obviously, here's Jim Lee. So, Jim and I go back a long ways. I mean, literally, when we both started our career, and I would argue that this, what you see up here, isn't capable of even existing unless sort of some of the things that Jim and I did together didn't happen prior to this, right? We were just two little comic book guys doing our thing, and then along came this thing that we started called Image Comics 30 years ago. What all the partners did at that point, and obviously the advent of those 30 years, and we each have to create a character, right? I remember sitting around that first day going, what character are you gonna have, right? Mine was Spawn. Nobody knew at that point that Spawn would still be sort of being published, let alone be worthy enough to be standing shoulder to shoulder with a character like Batman. So I've sort of been riding on the coattails and the accomplishments of all my partners, but one of the bigger ones that had a big influence on the success of Image was Jim Lee. So thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
I've said this in interviews before. I mean, Todd was the person that really inspired me to join this group. I remember the first convention I went to was in Alberta, Canada, and you were just like thinking of the Hulk, and you were there, and you had this long line in this big auditorium, and I just wanted to say hi. I just started like on an Alpha flight, and came in, I saw this, and I was like, this is what I want to aspire to. This is cool. Like, you were so gracious with your time, and so friendly, and that was really kind of the start of our friendship and conversation over the years. And then, I remember when we were creating characters, and then you said to me, look, you need to leave Image Comics soon, and I need you to go over to DC and run DC so that 30 years from now, true story, we can have Batman and Spawn meet. And I said, Todd, are you freaking crazy? Anyway,
But I pulled it off before Jim left.
Right, anyway. So, super excited for this. We've been sort of celebrating the 90s at DC. To me, this is one of the pinnacle projects, not just because of the characters, but also because of Todd and Greg, who to me, but Greg had an amazing run on Spawn as well. And it's fascinating to see you ink him in a car. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram at Todd McFarlane. Is that? Yeah. So, he was inking a page in the car. Were you driving one though? Oh, he was driving and that's too safe. A little Tesla maybe.
Yeah, I was filling the blacks. And I've got pages here right now. They're in the bag. So right there between my son's legs right there.
But that's classic Image.
In between interviews, I'm literally getting the pages. So maybe bring it up here. I might even be able to flash them to the crowd here. That we can do. Here's the thing. What we're hoping to do, and thanks to the good people at DC, Jim and this whole gang. And let me say, people are going, Todd, like, DC, that's like a big company, is it like big tough? It's actually been way easier than I thought, in that they've just given Greg and I a wide berth to do what we've done for 30 years. Look at, Jim knows how to make comic books, Greg has been doing it myself. We know how to get comic books done, we know what deadlines mean, we know how to get stuff done, and nobody's having to nurse us. I mean, they gotta keep reminding us about deadlines and make sure we get there, but we're gonna get the books done, and so I applaud DC, given that I understand that you guys are under a big corporate umbrella called Warner Brothers, which is a giant, that they've given us a lot of freedom to do this book the way that we sort of just wanted to do, which was to have fun and do a comic book that is a book that we wanted to have read when we were 17, right? If you find, like when I was a kid and I was collecting, I don't know about you, Jim, but if you said, hey, you're gonna take one character, one company, an A-list character, and another A-list character, another company, and you're gonna put them together, and you're gonna find my favorite artist on one book and my favorite artist on the other book, and they're gonna collaborate together. Like, what are you talking about? Of course, I would have bought the book. And we did a Batman Spawn Batman 25 years ago, but there's a whole generation. I see a lot of faces here, people weren't even born at that point. It's folklore, right? So we're going, let's give them their moment. I used to like big event books, just like you, right? And to me, I try not to lose that 17-year-old, 16-year-old Todd in me, and that's what Greg and I want to do. We want to deliver a book that we would have wanted to buy. It's not going to be sophisticated, it's not going to be like something that you're going to go and do a dissection on. It's just going to be a comic book that we're all going to like. And luckily, you know, I got the good fortune of working with the only person on the list I would have worked with, and that's the good-looking guy in the back of the room. So we've got some slides we're going to go through. Before we go through that, I want to make sure, because Jim's got to take off here first, that he gets to say whatever he needs to say.
Yeah, look, I think just a couple of reminders, really. I obviously spoke of the first Batman Spawn, so we have a collected edition coming out November 15th, I believe, which reprints Spawn Batman and Spawn Batman War Devil as well. And then we also brought a bunch of the variant covers that you guys are going to see for the first time ever, which are just kick ass. Yeah, mine's, I'm still thinking about mine. I saw these, I said, oh, I gotta bring it up a notch here. These guys
There's
are
two covers you will not see. One of them is the Jim variant cover, and one of them is the Todd McFarlane cover. And it's just because neither one of us have done it yet.
Yeah, that's right. I'm waiting for you to do yours first.
So at some point, you've got to flip a coin going, who's first, because somebody's got to reveal one next week, and then the other one gets revealed the week after. So you and I are going to have to do rock, paper, scissors, and one of us will have to get it done the next week here. So, but those are coming. Whatever you see here, we're just going to give you a sampling, but those two good ones coming down the pipeline. I don't know what DC is looking for, what their expectations are, any of this. If you want to talk on DC, I'll have to before you have.
Well, I mean, look, we expect this to be the biggest book of December, if not the biggest book of the year.
Yes.
Obviously, or something, which King Spawn, fantastic, amazing. It shows that there's still tremendous life in this business. And, I know you guys had talked this up from back in 2006. Yeah, so it's just amazing that, 16 years later, oh my God, it's finally coming to be, and we're just super excited to see this pairing. And really, it's special because of you guys. I mean, it really is the creator of Spawn, fantastic Spawn artist, but arguably one of the best Batman artists ever working together. You guys revealed like some of the story stuff, but it's leaning upon some of the stuff that Greg did in his amazing run with Scott Snyder. And so to me, it's a completely different story. It's not a sequel or an extension of the story you guys did before. And I'm just excited as a fan to see it come to life in December.
So I'm gonna see if I can up you a little bit. Like, it's gonna be the biggest book in December. Like, that one's done.
Yeah.
Right? It's gonna be the biggest book of this year. That one's done. Right? The question is, can we make it the biggest of the 21st century?
Yeah.
I don't say that with like, I said from a business analytical mind, I know what the number is, right? And last year, as Jim mentioned, we sold over 500,000 of King Spawn. 500,000 copies of King Spawn. Here's what wasn't in King Spawn #1. Greg Capullo and Batman, right? So surely, if you add Greg Capullo, the preeminent Batman artist, and Batman on top of that, surely we can blow past that number. And if we blow past that number enough, and I know what the number is, it does become the biggest book of the 21st century, right? So that's my goal, right? Forget December, right? We don't have the whole century.
Make sure to put that in our P&L, people.
No, I have. I talked to him when I was negotiating the deal.
Yeah.
Here's why too. Okay, as a geeky kid, if I said, who's the best Spawn artist? I'm telling you, it's Greg Capullo. Right? It's Greg Capullo, and I created the dude, and I'm telling you, it's an easy answer, it's Greg Capullo. Who's the best Batman artist in the last 10 years into a generation? Is their favorite Batman artist ever? It's Greg Capullo. And so
Who's trying to get my bald head to turn red?
no, I'm telling you, it's true. And now you go, so I get these two characters, and the person that I think is the best artist for both of them is the same guy, and he's doing both the characters. This is a no-brainer. Like, if you collect superhero comic books, I don't care if you're a Marvel fanatic, right? You're still going to go cross-company, cross-characters, Spawn Batman, A-list characters, and a couple of creative people, Greg Capullo, myself, on a book. Why wouldn't you be curious about this book and buy at least one copy, right? So we had these books when we were 20, 16, 15, and we just want to create one of those books for the collectors of today. And just go, man, I was there when that came out. Again, it was just a fun book, and 10 years from now, we're still going, remember page 12? Remember that? Right? Because in the Dark Knight, I don't know how many have read the Dark Knight book, right? Okay, here's what I know, if you guys are like me. If you close your eyes, can you remember about 5 or 6 images in that story? Of course you can, right? There are images in the Dark Knight that sear your brain. 20, 30, 40 years later. We hope that not only do we have a fun book that reminds you why you collect superhero comic books, but that there will be some of those visuals, and I've seen some because I get the ink that Greg put on paper that hopefully people will be asking us to do posters of for the next 40 years.
100%.
Greg Capullo. So how's that coming, Greg?
Well, Todd, I don't know if you know, to help us achieve the book of the 21st century, your book is going to go day and date in Barnes & Noble as a periodical the same day as comic book shops. We've only done that once before with Detective 1000, which was back in 2019, right? So you're going to be able to walk into Barnes & Noble and see a copy of Batman. So,
Before we do, we're going to just run through some slides here and just sort of give you what's going on. Let's go back to the first one, right? When we first announced it, those 5 words were the first 5 words we spoke. And I believe, maybe again, Greg and I are very confident in our ability. I thought that by uttering those 5 words, that was going to be 85% of the sales right there, right? If somebody, no, it's true. Like if you utter those 5 words, nobody's going to go, depends on who the bad guy is. How many pages are going to be? What's the cover? What are you talking about? We laid it up, and then we go, there's when you can buy it in December, and we're off to the races. The image you see off to the side is one of the covers. Greg, coming into, did a drawing of Batman coming into the alleys there and sort of dominating Spawn.
Just to say that.
Okay, go ahead.
What's very impressive is December has been around way longer than you and I, and yet we have the bigger copy than December. That's a holiday achievement.
Because it's a Christmas gift to all the family, right? So, what were you thinking here?
You say, honestly, we're bigger than December.
Yes. That's right. It's October. So talk to them a little bit about your composition on Discovery. What do you think of?
Well, first off, we get two covers, right? And one with Batman dominating Spawn and vice versa, because, contractual obligations, DC and security and stuff. So anyway, it was just, obviously it's a little bit of artistic license to make Batman's cape and flare like that, but I was really trying to say Batman. And then I tried to have Batman have Spawn on the ground in such a way that I could mirror it in the next image. So the only way I could think of was to use this cord from the Batarangs, juxtaposed against what you'll see soon, is Spawn's chains. And so I kept most of the garbage similar.
Yeah.
I really wanted to flip this image, but yeah, I was just trying to go to say Batman as loud as I could say Batman.
Yeah, no, again, and I agree, the images and what Greg and I have done is that when you're going to do something, it's got to pop in 2 seconds, right? So if you want the Batman version of this cover, that's the one right there. How do you know? Because there it is, right? What you don't see once you get the printed version is Greg was being humble there. His debris down at the bottom is kind of insane because I had to ink it all. So it takes a long time. And again, if you sort of zero in on the chest of Spawn, he's got Batarang. You'll see the little bat symbol in there, which is a nice little sort of hidden piece there. But besides that cover, we're going to show you some visuals that you've never seen before, that only a couple of retailers have seen recently. Let's talk about some of the people that are joining here. So obviously Greg and I are going to do our covers in here, but here's the other people. And again, it's not a complete list here. I think we're missing 1 or 2, but these are some of the names of the people that are going to be joining, doing some of the variant covers. They're not all going to be on the regular book. They're not all going to be books that you can just buy right at the top. Some of them are going to be the 1 in 50 covers. Some of them are going to be the 1 in 100 covers. So they're going to be a bit of a pecking order of how hard some of these covers are to get there. But when we put together our list, we wanted to do literally a who's who of not only artists, but cover artists that we think the fans would basically react to. So I think we came up with a fairly compelling lineup here of covers that I would have wanted to see if I was a kid, and even more importantly, the readers of today. So what else?
Many of you collected our Spawn when we were together, yeah?
Yeah.
So you complain about the trash. He's forgotten what we used to do back then. If you flipped at those old Spawn books, we were just the amount of work and detail put into it, staggering, and he's forgotten that because he's making it sound like I'm doing some big deal now, right? Complaining, crying on my shoulder. You should hear those. This tough guy sniffles. But I said like this, and you can confirm it or not. I go, all the fans who bought our work together back then, right? This is their nostalgic moment, right? We gotta, to me, get that same level of intensity that we did all those years ago. Otherwise, you're gonna go, oh, these two old farts, they lost it, right? So I'm just making sure to put enough of that gas that we put into those Spawn issues on the page in this. And I think we've delivered it. And Todd's inking traditionally, and he hasn't missed a beat. He's a better inker today than he was yesterday. I think this is some of our finest work together.
All right. So let's see if I think we've got some images here. We're going to show you. Jim was talking about it before. There's going to be in November the sort of recollecting the 2 books. Again, some of you aren't as old as Greg and I, but at the beginning of the advent of image comic books when everything sort of blew up, I was able to sort of negotiate a deal, and there was 2 books. There was one that was called Spawn Batman, that was the one that was published by Image Comics, and then there was another one that was called Batman Spawn, right? And the deal was, I do my book, they do their book, I put my team together, they put their team together, and we go. So you can imagine, just like here, I'm going, well, I only had one guy on my list. Back then, I only had one guy on my list. I went, Frank Miller, right? Like here's why Frank Miller mattered. He hadn't done one line of Batman since doing Dark Knight. And Dark Knight had made this big monumental impact. And then I went, man, what would send the signal up that this is going to be an event? Can I get Frank Miller back on Batman? And obviously the moment that we said, hey, Frank Miller, and coming back to do Batman, boom, the book took off and did what it did. So some of you may have been able to buy it on that day, if you're over 30, if you did. And then the rest of you may have bought it as a reprint, or you bought it in the back issue bin. But for those of you that missed it, both issues, both the one that I did with Frank Miller and the one that DC did that had Doug Mensch and Klaus Janson on their side, both of those are going to be in one collection. Greg did this, brand new cover here that I inked, and this is sort of a look at what, if you missed it the first go around, you can sort of catch up to speed in November. As you get to the new one in December. Let me also say there's no continuity between the two, right? So it's not like you have to have waited 30 years for the punchline, right? I'm treating it like it's a new story they've never met before. So it's as new and exciting of a story as it was for the people who bought these 2 books the very first time. So here's some artwork that has been floating around here.
Come on, it kicks ass, you gotta say it.
Yeah, so it does. Look at the trash, right? So lots of artwork here. So it's interesting on this one here because again, I was trying to give Greg some room to do his Greg thing, and so this is more of a metaphor. Although the Joker's in there, it's more of a metaphor image. It actually isn't like a scene from him beating up the Joker. It's a metaphor of the Black Beast, which is Batman, in the story. But what's more important to me in the story is what you see on the left, which is the amalgamation of the 2 characters. So Greg definitely did a design when I gave it. I go, you got to figure out how to mix these 2 guys together. They took the bat symbol and mixed it with the M, which is what the mark is on Spawn. It's an M. And he put the 2 of them together, and then he had sort of the bleeding sort of coming down from the 2 characters up above. One's obviously Bruce Wayne, the other one is Al Simmons' character that we both affectionately know as Batman and Spawn. So this is just sort of setting the table to get everybody ready for the ride that's about to come for the next 46 pages that's on there. So I don't know if you want to say anything about it.
Well, I'm just gonna say, that was really fun to do. And I was like at the halfway point of this 48-page story. And Todd goes, and now the fun begins. And I'm going, wow, the fun begins now? Because up until the halfway point, it's been wall-to-wall fun. So I'm like, I don't know how he's gonna up that game. But so anybody who gives this book, I mean, it's like an amusement park ride where it's just filled with thrills. And so yeah, I'm just going, this is just a warm-up.
And again, going back to what I said about the Dark Knight, those images, right? Again, you don't want to overdo it, right? We're pros, we know. You don't want to sort of do the big giant splash pages all the time, but you need those moments. In your roller coaster ride, you need the hard turns, you need the fast drops, because those are the ones that give a little bit of a thrill. So I thought that early in the game that besides I needed to say something to basically set the table, I wanted a big visual that would basically convey what I was trying to say here and show some of the separation between the 2 characters. So Greg came out of the gate swinging, literally, with his drawing. And we did. So we got the big chunky at the top, and then we got the cool detail. And this is, I'm hoping you guys have as much fun as we used to have when we were kids. You can read it once and then you go back and then you just study the art and you start discovering even more and more stuff. So,
I guess they could feel it's a cat in the trash somewhere.
yeah. So again, here's again a couple of other pages that are in the book. The page on the right is basically there's a little bit in the book of me trying to touch upon the similarities as well as the differences of these two characters. Right? Here's the similarities. The similarities are they're just I think they're both badasses and they both like to perform at night when the sun is down. And they both, I think, scare people at their core when they're on their A game. The question is, what makes them different? And the reality is their personalities, because they both have their own personas. So if you sort of scroll down the left and you scroll down the right, you see Bruce Wayne, and Bruce Wayne, just like Al Simmons is again on the right. They've been scrapping since they were kids, right? Let me just tell you, there's only two kinds of dogs in the world, ladies and gentlemen. There's those that bite and those that don't. And if you have a dog that doesn't bite, you can never train it to bite. It is just nice. You can pull its tail, you can pull its fur, and the worst that'll happen is a snarl or maybe walk into another room. But what it will never do is bite. But you got a dog like a little fucking chihuahua, right? Look at your heels for no reason. It doesn't even need a reason to bite. And it's a biter. I think both, at their core, both Bruce Wayne and Batman and Al Simmons are biters. Because they've been fighting and fighting and fighting. And at some point, they just got pushed into a point that it actually became fantastical. And it's now their life. And now they're in survival mode. And now the question is, how do they survive? They have completely different ways of surviving. And so without getting heavy-handed in it, I just wanted to touch upon it. Oh, by the way, how you get there is dependent upon your life. Besides being scrappers, you go down to the next one. One guy had a lot of cash and the other guy only had nickels, right? So they live different lives. So yes, Al is way more emotional, way more physical. And now Bruce Wayne can go, hey, I got a lot of gadgets, I can pay for gadgets, and I can sort of solve my problem with my head. Where Al Simmons still is more of a boxer and going, I'll just fight my way out of all the solutions.
But I think the nice thing is that it proves that you don't have to be really rich to get out of girls. Yeah, and only nickels in one is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll get to that. Part of the story too is going back and talking about two of the loves of their life, right? And for Spawn, it's always been his entire existence is because of him coming back for Wanda, his wife. For Bruce Wayne, his big female love at the core of his life is his mom, right? Martha Wayne. Unfortunately, both of those women are now dead. And so they both lost the loves of their life, which is sort of the indication of the guns down at the bottom. And it basically turned each of them into the heroes that they are, unwillingly. And they would both trade not being Batman and Spawn if they could have the love of their lives back, alive and well and healthy. So I'm just touching a little bit on what it is that's driving them and what's common about them and what's a little bit separate about them. The big image on the left is just fun comic book stuff, right? It may look like a cover to you guys, but as you start setting the table, you have to talk about some of the mythology. And this was just a page, literally, that I think was as simple as, hey, Greg, leave me some room. I got to talk a little bit about Batman and some of his rogues gallery. You don't have to draw them all, but I just need to talk about how he's sort of had to outmaneuver these guys for a long time. Can you just give me an image? And again, then you get out of the way of people who are unbelievably skilled, which is why I want to work with Greg. And this is what you get. So I got to tell you, the pleasure of working with a guy like Greg is I get to see it before all of you. And I have the same reaction I hope that all of you will have when you see some of the pages we're not going to show you. That you just go, oh my gosh, right? I can go, oh my gosh, and then I have to actually ink it and get it done. But I don't know.
Moan.
Because because he's got little tiny, he does, let me tell you, I'm 61 and I've never had to use readers. So I've never had to use readers. And for the first time doing in this book, I'm using readers.
Digitally spoiled.
Yes. Because as much as I think that I can see what Greg wants, when I put on those magnifiers, then I even see more. And I go, now you wear magnifiers, you get to see it easily. But he literally put stuff on paper that my eyes, as good as they are, can't see. And then I put on the magnifier and go, man, I gotta put a couple more.
We used to do this all the time.
Yes. No, but we both had good eyes. So at that point. But if you can see here, what do you got? You got the quarter owl, looks like you got Two-Face in
The
there.
one I knew you were complaining about was Bane. Really tiny.
He's one down at the bottom right. He's down at the bottom right. There's a cool scarecrow in there. I'm trying to, I don't even know who the big face is.
Professor Pig.
Yeah, that's fine.
That was obvious. It would have been easier if you said Professor Pigface. But you got Poison Ivy. I think Clayface is in there on the nose bridge, right?
Yeah.
And there's Penguin. Penguin's in there too. Anyways, by the time it gets colored and you see it, and you get to look at it up close, then you can admire both the
I just
composition.
have to tell you, I learned something horrifying.
Okay.
Okay, so Jonathan Blackman made a long time ago, right? And so if you picked up metal and stuff, you see, all the stuff I had to draw with really tiny figures, right? And so I know he's going to complain about Bane. The most horrifying thing Jonathan told on you, he saw the pages, and Todd says, Jonathan, so when Greg gives you these pages with all these little figures, I mean, what do? Do you just like erase some of them? I want to be fired. But the fact that entered your mind, that you uttered those words.
Okay. That page, here's what Greg has forgotten. He actually had
That's your old side.
no, you had the Riddler on the other side of his chin, and I just blacked it out, right? So there's no Riddler. I got rid of that guy, right? So no, I'm kidding. But
Listen, I cut you a break. I only did a question mark for the Riddler.
yes, I know, I saw that. But as I was inking all those little tiny guys, I phoned Jonathan Clark and go, how did you do this for metal, right? Because Greg is insane with his artwork. How did you keep pace and have 4 kids?
Because I followed insane writer, Scott Snyder.
Oh, no. Yeah. Well, I'm
It's
trying
fun,
to.
right? He always hands me this thing's gonna make me like that. It's fun, right?
So I'm trying to keep it sort of as loose and easy for Greg as I possibly can. So let's keep going here. Here's some pages of pencils, just so you guys can see how prolific and how attentive. And what you can't see, unfortunately, I wish we could actually zoom in on a couple of these, is like, if you look at the one on the right panel for the close-up of Alfred, if you were to zoom in on that, the expression and the subtlety of that face it's not that big, it's actually both. It's not that big page you just saw on the left that makes, I think, Greg as powerful of an artist as he is. It becomes these quiet scenes of how he moves the camera around, how he moves people, and how he shows emotions with people's faces that are very difficult to capture in one panel. And so it's also a pleasure to be able to write quiet scenes, because I know I'm going to get body language and I'm going to get acting, essentially, on the paper.
And a lot of people are probably curious. I get asked constantly, what the X's mean. That's where you put in a solid black. So that's a shorthand that pencilers use. I do light shading sometimes with none. I just put the X's. Sometimes just because I want to see the feel a little bit, I'll do that. But that's what those X's are, just so you know.
One of the things I discovered, though, which is interesting, that somehow Greg, although he's penciling in gray, sees it in black and white. Because I've done now a lot of his pages, and before I lay in the blacks, I think they're really good. I go, wow, this is a really good page. But then I come and I finish them up and I put the black, and I go, wow, now it feels finished and heavy and atmospheric, and all of it's there, and somehow Greg is seeing black and white with a gray pencil. I don't know how we're doing it, but it's just obviously natural to you. It's a bit of a mystery to me.
See, I thought everybody did it.
Yeah, that's right. So let's keep going. Now here for the very first time is a reveal of the second cover. So you guys are seeing before anybody else. There's nobody else other than the people in this room right here. I think we showed a couple of retailers the other day, but for fans, no fans have seen this. We haven't put it on anybody's social media. It will come out literally as soon as this panel is over. It's going on social media. This is the alternate version. You saw Batman over Spawn in the alley in the garbage with the city in the background. This is now Spawn with his chain, and we flipped it, right? So you can either get both. You can get, if you like a Spawn, get the Spawn version, the dominating, or if you like Batman, get the dominating one. But both of these, I think, side by side are a terrific pair, and I thought that Greg sort of solved the puzzle very quickly. So, and here's some other covers that are out there. We've got Jason Kabu, we've got the black and white version of it, and then we've got the color one. He decided to give it some mood with the rain. Sometimes I don't think you have to overthink what you're drawing here. One guy is the badass in blue, the other guy is the badass guy in red, right? Just make it, show that quickly. And even though you might not see all the anatomy of either one of those characters, you know which one's Batman, you know which one is Spawn. Boom, boom. And the way that we're going to be moving the logo around and the treatment and all that other stuff, and some of them are actually going to be, I think, version of black and white. We got a bunch of tricks that we're going to be doing. We're looking at each one sort of differently, but there's that one. We're getting a lot of sort of buzzing on it. The one on the left here is Brett Booth. Brett Booth is currently doing the Gunslinger Spawn for me, and is an amazing artist. Every time he hands in the page to me, so when I look at some of the stuff that Craig does, I just want to stare at it for a while. The one on the other side, coming out a little bit darker than the one that will be printed, is Francisco Mentina. He's got Batman in the back. What's cool about that, you might not be able to see, is that his cape is sort of coming apart and it's kind of turning into bats. Mm-hmm. So he's doing this sort of cool motif on that piece right there. And then obviously you got Spawn in the foreground. So there's a couple of them. These are a couple ones that just came in the other day. The one on the left is J. Scott Campbell. If you look at his, again, the cape is coming and peeling up and it's turning into bat. If you then look at Spawn's red cape, it looks like at first glance that those are bats, red bats, but they're not, right? And you'll see that they're more sort of creatures of hell coming off him, even though at first blush. So Scott, I worked with before, has done lots of good covers for both Marvel and DC. He likes to come up with cool graphic imagery. And then Delotto on this side, one of the things that I enjoyed about this piece was he was like, hey, can I have a little bit of fun with it? And I'm like, yeah, go ahead, whatever you want to do. So I got a couple ideas for Spawn. I go, just knock yourself out. So even like the claw at the end of the chain and even the texture on Spawn was his choosing.
Reminds me of the movie.
Yeah, right. And so and even the marking on his face, right? The white mark. I just go, guys, have fun, right? His costume is constantly in flux. Do what you want to do. And then you've got the brood Batman, obviously, up above, sort of looking over the city. What else do we have here? The one on the left is a favorite of mine. That's Greg and I. And so that one is the one, Jim Lee said before he left, it's going to be a Barnes & Noble one that's going to be direct. That's going to be the cover for the one that's going to Barnes & Noble. That's one that Greg and I did 16 years ago, yeah. Right? So but I was telling in DC, it still holds up. I think you guys are fools if you don't use some of this imagery. The blue guy and the red guy, and they're both shadowy guys that are about to take on the night. It's got to be used someplace. The one on the right is Jorge Jimenez, again, one of my favorite artists over at DC. And so he decided to, again, go into a little bit of a graphic design, which again separates those two characters in a heartbeat, which I think is all you can hope for in any cover, is that you can see the two characters very quickly. Next, we've got more. We've got another one. I think the one on the left, this is Greg and I again from 16 years ago. This was a fun piece. I remember Greg doing it. Essentially, when you think Batman, you think of Spawn, you think of their capes. This is just the cape cover, right? I think that one's gonna be in the reprint book. And then the one on the right is Sean Mark Murphy. And he's doing, sort of monochromatic sort of version and take on his book. I think there's one with a little bit cooler, and I mean cool in terms of warm and cool colors. That is an updated version of this. It's not on this line. So what else we have? And that's it. Okay, so and some of this is not out. Some of this isn't live. So if any of you guys took any visual screens, you've got, now my panel is going to end here in about 15, 20 minutes. You guys, if you get it out on your TikTok and Instagram right now, you'll be ahead of me. So go out there and look at the picture. I'm going to let Greg go because I'm going to talk about the movie a bit. But before I go, I want to give Greg the last word on saying whatever he needs to say about the project here.
Well, what I will say is what I feel now. Scott Snyder's not here. He's heard me say this plenty of times, and it makes his eyebrows go crazy. It's the most fun I've ever had working in comics is the time I spent working with Todd, and it's just a fact. So coming together and doing this thing, it's like we never stopped in all these years, even though we've been apart from each other for a while, doing this stuff, with a few exceptions. Spawn 300 and stuff. It's like we have not stopped doing that monthly thing that we used to do. And Todd has given me a story that is visually a blast. It's a cool story. And so I'm just having so much fun with my longtime partner doing two characters that I'm very familiar with now. I'm actually glad that we did 2006 because now I've done a decade of both characters each. So I think you're going to have as much fun as I'm having because if I can feel this after doing comics for 30 years, then you newbies, relatively speaking, are going to have just as much fun. And so,
And if you like the quarter owls, it was Greg's choice. So if you don't, it was Greg's choice. Because when I started, I didn't have the story. I just had, some sort of, I wanted to talk about.
well, it could still be your fault because you can just write the crappy.
Oh, yeah.
Because the quarter mile is cool.
But first thing I did was go, Greg, you're in, good. What do you want to draw? And he said, quarter owls. And I was like, let's do it, right? I didn't know anything about the quarter owls at that point, just so everybody knows.
I just figured it'd be cool to have a talent because now we have an assassin and some two orders involved. I just go, that'd be fun. And he obviously said, why did you go guilty once you found out?
Yeah, once I did my homework, because I don't read Marvel and DC comic books. I got my head down doing our own. Greg told me that they've been around for centuries. I'm like, what did you just say? Yeah, they've been around for centuries. They've been around forever. Yeah. Shit, so the Spawns. So this is going to be easy to make this bridge from the one universe to the other universe using a character instead. Plus, we have a group of characters called the Court of Priests. So there's a whole thing called
Plagiarism.
Yeah. I call it the court now, right? It's like the court is everywhere in all time, space, and dimension. And this is what they manifest themselves on the sort of DC side, and they manifest themselves and they sort of do what they have to do. But it was a great suggestion to go with the quarter owl, so it's turning out pretty well. I think we're enjoying ourselves.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That was it.
All right. Thank you, Greg. All right, and there's Jamie Capullo there, always by. All the dark secrets of Greg, go to Jamie because she's got them all. And if you get her pissed off, she'll tell you the better ones. So,
Oh, dear.
So we've got 15 minutes to talk about. I've always got with the toy you didn't know or whatever, but let's just sort of go into some of the breaking news that we had earlier in the week. We on Wednesday announced we're supposed to come out. You guys saw something I saw on my Instagram on Monday. It was supposed to come out Tuesday. Right? Let me just tell you, when you're working with a lot of people that have lots of representation, it only takes one thing to sort of shift, and then you get a phone call and go, hey, can we bump it 24 hours? And you just accommodate your team, being a team player. So it eventually broke on the big news, the latest update on it on Wednesday. The news was that we added a guy by the name of Scott Silver. Here's the thing about in Hollywood. Let me get you a couple. So here's the thing about Hollywood. Most of us know the names in front of the camera. We don't know the names behind the camera, right? Most of us probably can't name 3 directors, right? But if you say, and you've seen the ads that say, from the producer of, and then they list the movie, from the writer of, from the director of, right? When you see those, you just go, do I like what they basically did as their work, their creations? And you go, I saw that movie. What do you mean, Jason Blum? You guys might not know who Jason Blum is, the head of Blumhouse. You might not even know what Blumhouse is, it's a production house. But if I say from the producer of Get Out, you might go, what? I liked Get Out. Oh my God, they got the producer from Get Out, right? So Scott Silver, simply put, hopefully from a geek's point of view, you guys will get, he's the guy that wrote Joker, right? And is writing Joker 2. Just so you guys know, Joker is the #1 selling, best-selling R-rated movie of all time. Not superhero, not comic book. The #1 R-rated movie, most sales in cinematic history, Scott Silver did. Oh, by the way, besides doing 8 Mile and Fighter and a bunch of other movies that I adore, he's the guy that wrote Joker, and he paved the way for R-rated movies, right? And he's in the same lane as I am, although ultimately somebody else is going to basically be spending the money and they'll get some final say. But he wants to do something sophisticated too, right? And I go, well, if we're going to do something R-rated and we're going to try and get Hollywood going, and they don't want to bite on my script, and I tried, and they was like, Todd, we need something a little bit different, with their confidence was right there. Then I go, then I'm going to get the biggest R-rated writer on the planet, and that was Scott Silver, and he went and said, I'm in. Right now, again, why would a guy like Scott Silver jump if he didn't think that we weren't taking this across the finish line? Of course we will, because every time you add a big hitter in Hollywood, it makes it easier for them to say yes. So, besides Scott Silver, Joker writer that we've got in here, we also announced Malcolm Spellman. Again, most people aren't familiar with people behind the camera. Malcolm Spellman, besides doing Empire and created the new show right now called Bel Air, is also the guy that gave you, right here, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and is currently writing Captain America 4, right? So now we have essentially the Captain America writer and the Joker writer are in the same room. We're having those conversations. We have been having those conversations during the pandemic, and just adding to the A-list of people that have been with this team, so that when we go to the studio, they're just going to see A-list, 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 and Todd, right? If I do my job right, I should be the weekly, right? And they'll go, wow, and we haven't even announced yet, like, when we come, hopefully get an A-list director to go with it. That's our last sort of big push on it. And then when we do casting, after we sign the deal, all of that will tumble because actors want to act in shows that have A-list talent on top of it. And it helps us then convince them that they should try and make this a franchise and not think about it as a one picture, one and done. Let's go and let's break it all up. And then we've got another young talent on it called Nixon. He's a young upcoming writer. He's got a voice that needs to be told here, right? Again, there's diversity in our characters and the stories, and we feel that we need like voices from all different quarters, not only on the acting front, but on the writing front. And so between Scott and myself and Jason's input and Jamie Foxx's input, who I'm telling you, it will go to his grave and before he quits the Spawn project, right? He will do Spawn until he dies, right? He's always leaving me memo, like I should actually play one for you. So he's always, let me see what his latest one was. Some of them are long, some of them are short. This one's only 5 seconds, so it shouldn't compromise anything. Let me see what this one says.
Opportunity, we got an opportunity, baby. Let's go get it. Hope you're well.
It's all the same.
We're here on set, man. Just checking in, me and Todd, man. Tell Todd, man, you gotta let me get at this.
He's eager, he's gonna come, and then we're gonna take you across the finish line. The next piece of news, and it was interesting, the two writers were like, why are you gonna wanna announce us? It's like, because you guys are big deals, right? It's interesting that people behind the camera don't give themselves the credit. I go into New York with geekdom, and I tell them I've got Captain America and Joker writer, like that matters. That's like saying I got 2 stars on the book. I just put 2 heavyweights on movies and properties that they basically know on my property, and they should be asking the question, why would these people put their careers on the line to go to Spawn unless they thought Spawn was going to get made and do it in a big way? So that's why, Scott and Malcolm and Matthew, we got to say your names, because it matters that you're with it, because me saying constantly, which I have been, that we're working on it behind the scenes, which we have been, has an expiration date. And you guys will only believe me so far. And at some point you go, Todd, we've heard it, right? Right, we've heard it. And so I go, guys, you gotta give me something. I've gotta be able to go instead of saying, trust me. I've said that too many times, I gotta give them something real. And the answer is a couple of heavy hitters here. I'll open up if anybody's got any questions they want to bring up in here. We've got a couple of minutes maybe to answer any questions. Before we go though, I'd like to introduce a couple of people here that are near and dear to my heart for various reasons. Number one, a lot of you still come up to me and sign books, and a lot of the books in front of me are my Spider-Man run that I did, where we sort of, I was able to do a bunch of crazy stuff, and some people say sort of reinvented some of the look on it, and you know, co-created Venom in there, whatever. All of that latitude was given to me by, in my career at both Marvel and DC, the best editor I ever worked for. So Mr. Jim Sauerkraut is Jim, I know, is humble about it, but he always goes, well, Todd was the town and just sort of getting out of the way. But I've run into editors too that want to mitigate what you want to do. And Jim basically just went, hey, I've got a bit of a life art. Here's the great thing that Jim gave me, just, you know, so you know, is he told me, Todd, why are you drawing that? And I go, like, what are you talking about? And he goes, no, why did you draw that panel? Just like Greg, why did you lay out that page? And then I go, what do you mean why did I draw it? And then I get angry a little bit. And I go, because of this. And then you go, whoa. I don't care why. I just want you to have a reason when you're drawing. Just don't draw for the sake of drawing. Have a reason. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not here to argue with you, but just be thinking while you're drawing. And from that moment on, I have to have a reason for everything that was on the page, because in case Jim ever asked me why did you do that, I wanted to be ready so I can give you a dissertation of every page that I've ever drawn as to why I do everything, the layout, the thickness of the borders, the gaps between the pages, everything. I can give you a reason. Also, I've got my son, Jake McFarlane here, who Jake is currently working for the old man, and because my 2 daughters that are older than Jake, one became a doctor, one became a lawyer, cliche. And I was like, you guys want to follow that? I look at, here's what I'm in the paper and plastic business, between the toys and comics. And in the paper, you want paper or plastic, right? So it's a profession. And so I conned my son to at least sort of nibble at the edges here. He's working on some of the stuff in our company and having some of the stuff we're doing on the NFT side. And then my big proud pleasure here, for 42 years I've been with this darling woman since she was 13 years old. We started dating since she was 13. I had to wait till she was older to be able to ask her to marry me, right? Because otherwise it would have been some kind of breaking the law prior to that. But my lovely bride of 42 years here, Miss Wanda Colorado. Is that a coincidence that Al Simmons' whole existence is because of the love of his life one? The answer is absolutely not, right? That whole story is just me sort of being spawned at all times that are in there. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions here they want to ask about movies, comic books. We've got 3 minutes. We've got 2 questions. I can hurry up. We've got 2 questions. Oh, get in. Come on. You're in front.
Hi, I'll be classy. What's your number one crossover with Spawn you haven't been able to do yet?
Okay, Greg and I talked about it. I think there's only one book that could outsell, and then we're hoping to set the sales record, right, of this 21st century. Capullo, McFarlane, Batman, and Spawn. I think there's only one book that could top that. Spider-Man, Batman, all drawn by Todd, bad guy, Venom. Todd character, Todd creation, Todd, you guys but that's the only one that in the back of my head is still at some point before I die, and I've got to try and figure out. I talked to Marvel, and that's the only thing we ever talk about, because again, since I left in 1992, I have not drawn a single line for Marvel and DC, and I said I will never draw a line for you unless one of my creations is in that book, period, right? And so if there's no Spawn in that book, then I'm never doing it. So they ask me to do covers all the time, like, no, I won't do it. And I've been militant for 30 years now, and I haven't done it. But that would be the only way I'd ever go and do something with Marvel, bring those 2 dudes together for the first time.
Perfect, thank you. You're
So first, I just want to thank you for really taking a photo with myself and my wife, who was just a constant and she spawned earlier at the signing.
Oh, no, that was okay, because you called me a son of a bitch if I didn't.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I'm a big time gamer, and I played all the past Spawn games.
Yep.
Video games. Just want to know if there's anything in the future, the works coming out.
Yeah, so here's how it works. Here's how I perceive life as working. And it goes something like this. I come out with a movie, and it's done by these magnificent people that we put together, and it's a huge success. What do you think's gonna happen? The phone and the door are gonna knock, and everybody's gonna want to do everything from video games to hats and t-shirts to patio furniture. Right? They're gonna all come and oh my God, everybody's up. So we will get there. I've been very patient, right? It took me almost 30 years to come up with the Spawn universe, right? And we set 4 records last year. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We set 4 records without the support of those 4 books. I'm able to now slowly build out this universe, and it will continue to expand at a slow rate. Let me also tell you, my books are $2.99. Not only are they $2.99, but I upgraded the covers so they got that cardboard, so they're actually going to feel more substantial and basically be in better condition if you want to go get upgraded or something like that. I don't need to charge $3.99, right? You know why? Because I don't have a big office. I don't have big overhead. I don't have 1,000 people working for me. I don't have the staff of creative people. I've got a small group of people, and my job is to give you guys the highest quality. I did this even until the highest quality at the cheapest possible price I can, because I'm not a public company, right? Even at that, we have lived a great life, right? My wife and I are thankful every day to you good people that allow us to basically have the career that we've had, have the life that we've had, and be able to put our kids through college. Right? So we're good. The house is paid for, the car is paid for, and the kids are through college. I don't need any more money. The least interesting thing that, when I talk to Hollywood business people, the least interesting thing that is part of the conversation is cash. We've got cash. We got enough we can go to Greece if we want to tomorrow. Okay, cool. We don't need enough to buy an island. We don't have the aspiration for an island or to have a 747, right? I don't know why you need that much, right? Other than if we had it to help others, right? At some point, if I quit all of this, it will only be because I make one big deal. And if I was to ever cash out, and I have no plan, but if I was to ever cash out, it's for one reason, to take that cash and help the world, right? Not me, not my wife, but to help the world, because they've helped us, and if I've got enough money that I can change the lives of other people, then we will do that, right? We'll see where it goes. Even if I don't sell it, we're still gonna go down that route and do that as much as possible. And I can't do it, ladies and gentlemen, without you, right? So every day you guys basically reach in your pockets and give me your hard-earned money. I am thankful to each and every one of you.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna keep giving it.